The night everything broke, I had exactly $11.37 in my bank account. Yeah, 11 damn dollars. I remember staring at my phone screen in the parking lot of a grocery store while rain hit the windshield like the universe was personally roasting me. 32 years old. No husband, no savings, no plan, no clue what the hell I was doing anymore. And the crazy part, I wanted to blame everybody. My ex, my parents, my boss, the economy, Mercury being in retrograde. Anybody but me. I sat there gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I had this feeling in my chest, like panic, like shame, like somebody had caught me pretending to be okay for years. Because that's exactly what happened. I wasn't okay, not even close. I was exhausted. The kind of tired sleep can't fix. The kind that lives in your soul rent-free. I remember looking around the parking lot. People were loading groceries. Families laughing. Couples arguing about random stuff. Normal life. Meanwhile, I was sitting there trying to figure out whether I could afford gas or food. Not both. One or the other. It's funny now. Back then. Deadass one of the most humiliating moments of my life. I kept telling people I was going through a rough patch. Girl, that wasn't a rough patch. That was an entire rough decade. And the worst part wasn't being broke. The worst part was knowing deep down I had helped create every mess I was standing in. I just wasn't ready to admit it yet. So instead, I did what I always did. I got angry. I blamed. I complained. I acted like life was targeting me specifically, like I was the victim of some cosmic conspiracy. And honestly, that mindset almost destroyed me, because when you think everybody else is the problem, you never become the solution. I didn't know that then. I was still in my self-sabotage era, still collecting excuses like trophies, still telling myself stories that kept me stuck. Stories like, I'm too damaged. It's too late. People like me don't win. I always mess things up. I'll start next week. And my favorite one, the right opportunity just hasn't come yet. Girl, please, opportunities had come. I just wasn't ready for them. Because every time life handed me a door, I'd find a way to set the damn house on fire. I know that's hard to hear. Trust me. I hated hearing it too. Back then, I thought being strong meant proving everybody wrong. Now, I know real strength is admitting when you're the one standing in your own way. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Because if you saw me at 32, you'd probably think my life had always been a disaster. It hadn't. The truth is way messier than that. And what happened before that rainy night explains everything. Because the girl sitting in that parking lot didn't become that person overnight. Not even close. And when I tell you where it really started, you'll understand why I spent years running from the mirror. But before I tell you that, you need to know something. The person who hurt me the most wasn't my ex, wasn't my family, wasn't some toxic friend. It was me. And I didn't realize that until the day everything finally fell apart. The day everything finally fell apart wasn't dramatic. Nobody slammed a door. Nobody screamed. There wasn't some movie scene where sad music starts playing and suddenly you understand your life is a mess. Nah, it was way quieter than that. And somehow that made it worse. I drove home from that grocery store without buying anything, just drove. The gas light was already on. My stomach was growling, and my pride was hanging on by a thread. I got back to my apartment, if you could even call it that. The place looked exactly how I felt, clothes everywhere, dishes stacked in the sink, bills sitting unopened on the counter. The energy was giving depression. Period. I dropped my keys, sat on the floor, and just stared at the wall. You ever get so tired that crying feels like too much work? That was me. I wasn't sad anymore. I was empty. And honestly, that scared me more, because sadness means you still feel something. Empty means you're disappearing. And I had been disappearing for years, just slowly enough that nobody noticed, including me. Well, maybe everybody noticed except me. That's usually how it goes. The signs were everywhere. The failed relationships, the jobs I kept quitting, the friendships I kept sabotaging, the promises I kept making to myself and breaking 3 days later. But every time life tried to teach me something, I'd find a new excuse, a new distraction, a new person to blame. See, growing up, I was always the difficult one. At least that's what people called me. If I got upset, too emotional, if I spoke up, too loud if I wanted more from life, too ambitious. If I got angry, too much. Everything was too much. Ayla was always too much. And after hearing that enough times, you start believing it. You start thinking maybe your existence is an inconvenience. Maybe your dreams are annoying. Maybe your voice should be smaller. Maybe people would love you more if you took up less space. So that's what I tried to do. I became a professional shapeshifter. I changed depending on who I was around. Different personality, different opinions, different version of me, whatever made people comfortable, whatever got approval, whatever avoided rejection. And no cap, that strategy worked for a while. People liked me. People accepted me. People approved of me. The only problem, I had absolutely no idea who I actually was. And that's where the self-destruction started. Because when you don't know who you are, you let everybody else tell you. You let relationships define you. Jobs define you. Social media define you. Other people's opinions define you. And before you know it, you're living a life that doesn't even belong to you. I remember being 24, looking at my reflection before work, thinking, if I disappeared tomorrow, would anything really change? That thought scared me. Not because I wanted to disappear, because I realized I wasn't actually living. I was performing, every day, every conversation, every relationship. Just one giant performance, trying to earn love, trying to earn worth, trying to earn belonging. As if I had to prove I deserved oxygen. That's an exhausting way to live. Trust me, I did it for years. And here's the part nobody talks about. People-pleasing doesn't make you kind. Sometimes it makes you resentful, because eventually you start keeping score. You start thinking, look at everything I do for everyone. Why doesn't anybody do that for me? Meanwhile, nobody asked you to sacrifice yourself in the first place. That realization hit me way later. Back then, I was still collecting victim points, still convinced life owed me something, still waiting for somebody to save me. And then came the relationship that nearly finished me. Oh girl, this part had me looking absolutely ridiculous. Laughs, I met a man who became my entire personality. You know the type. Charming, confident, just enough emotional availability to keep you hooked, just enough inconsistency to keep you confused. And confused girls stay longer. Period. I made excuses for everything. Red flags. I called them misunderstandings. Mixed signals, I called them potential. Disrespect, I called it stress. The man practically handed me a warning label and I was like, aw, that's cute. Maybe he's healing. Deadass, I was embarrassing myself. But here's the truth. I wasn't in love with him. I was addicted to validation. There's a difference. And I didn't learn that lesson until it cost me years. Years I can never get back. Now what happened next completely changed how I saw myself. Because when that relationship finally ended, I expected grief. I expected heartbreak. I expected sadness. What I didn't expect was relief, pure relief. Like my soul had been holding its breath for years, and suddenly it could breathe again. That's when I started asking questions I'd been avoiding. Questions that made me uncomfortable. Questions that didn't have anyone else to blame. Questions like, why do I keep choosing people who can't love me? Why do I abandon myself so easily? Why do I keep repeating the same story with different faces? And trust me, the answers were not cute. The answers exposed me, but they also set me free. Because the truth wasn't that I had bad luck. The truth wasn't that everybody else was toxic. The truth wasn't that the universe hated me. The truth was much simpler. And much harder. I was carrying wounds that I never healed. And those wounds were making decisions for me. They picked my relationships. They picked my habits. They picked my reactions. They picked my future. And until I healed them, nothing was going to change. Not my bank account. Not my career. Not my confidence. Nothing. What happened after that realization is something I'll never forget. Because that was the exact moment my entire life started turning around. And trust me, awareness sounds cute on social media. Everybody talks about healing. Everybody talks about growth. Everybody posts little quotes about becoming their best self. But nobody tells you what happens after you realize you're the problem. Nobody tells you how ugly that part gets. Because once you see it, You can't unsee it. I wish I could tell you that after that realization, everything changed overnight. That I woke up the next morning with main character energy. That I made a vision board, started meditating, started drinking green juice, and suddenly life was perfect. Girl, absolutely not. It got worse, way worse. Because now I had awareness. But I didn't have discipline. I had truth. But I didn't have action. I knew what was wrong. I just didn't know how to fix it. And honestly, that might have been the most frustrating season of my life. Because ignorance gives you excuses. Awareness takes them away. Every bad decision started feeling louder. Every toxic habit became impossible to ignore. Every lie I told myself sounded ridiculous. I couldn't hide from myself anymore. And that's exactly when rock bottom arrived. Not with a bang, with a slow, painful collapse, one piece at a time. My job started falling apart. I was already burned out, showing up late, dragging myself through the day, pretending to care when I barely had enough energy to care about myself. I remember sitting at my desk one afternoon, staring at an email for 20 minutes. 20 whole minutes. Couldn't focus. Couldn't think. Couldn't function. I felt broken, like somebody had unplugged my brain. And honestly, maybe they had. Years of stress will do that. Years of self-neglect will do that. Years of abandoning yourself catches up eventually. Period. The final straw came on a random Tuesday. Nothing special about the day, nothing dramatic, just another Tuesday. My manager called me into her office, and before she even opened her mouth, I knew. You know those moments when your stomach drops before anything happens? Yeah, that. I sat down. She started talking. Words were coming out, but all I heard was static. Then one sentence cut through everything. "We're letting you go." That's it. Simple, clean, professional, done, and just like that, the little stability I had left disappeared. I walked out carrying a cardboard box, just like the movies, except it didn't feel cinematic. It felt humiliating. People avoided eye contact. A few said sorry. Most didn't know what to say. I didn't blame them. I didn't know what to say either. I got into my car, closed the door, and stared straight ahead. No tears, no screaming, nothing. Just silence. The kind that makes your ears ring. The kind that feels heavy. And for the first time in my life, I had nowhere to run, no distractions, no relationship, no career identity, no fake confidence. Nothing, just me. And let me tell you something. Meeting yourself without distractions, terrifying, absolutely terrifying. Because all the things you've been avoiding show up at once. Every insecurity, every regret, every mistake, every failure. They all pull up like they paid rent. And mine did. Every single one. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't think straight. My anxiety was running marathons. I kept replaying my life like a highlight reel of bad decisions. And every memory ended the same way, with me asking, how did I get here? How did I become this person? One night I was sitting on my bathroom floor. The apartment was completely dark except for the light above the mirror. I don't even remember how long I had been sitting there. An hour maybe, maybe more. Time felt weird back then, and I looked up, saw my reflection, and something happened, something I'll never forget. I stopped feeling sorry for myself. Just for a second, just long enough. I looked directly into my own eyes. No distractions, no excuses, no stories, just truth, raw, ugly truth. And the words came out before I could stop them. Ayla, what the hell are you doing? Not angry, not dramatic, just honest. for the first time. Brutally honest, I stared at myself, and I realized something. Nobody was coming, no magical opportunity, no perfect relationship, no lottery ticket, no rescue mission. Nobody was showing up to save my life, because my life was my responsibility. And girl, that truth hit harder than any breakup ever could. I started crying. Not cute movie tears. Not one single tear rolling down my cheek. Nah, ugly crying. The kind where your face hurts. The kind where years of pain leave your body at once. I cried for the little girl who thought she wasn't enough. I cried for the young woman who spent years chasing validation. I cried for every version of myself that abandoned her own needs trying to earn love. And then something shifted, something small, but powerful. I stopped asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and started asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" That question changed everything. Because victims ask different questions than leaders. Victims ask who's to blame. Leaders ask what's next. Victims stay stuck in the problem. Leaders search for solutions. And for the first time, I chose differently. Not perfectly, just differently. I got up off that bathroom floor, looked in the mirror again, and made a promise, a real promise. Not one of those motivational promises you forget by next Monday. A real one, I said. "Ayla, nobody is coming to save you, so let's go save ourselves." That was the beginning, not the glow up, not the success, not the peace. The beginning, because what came next wasn't glamorous. It wasn't Instagram worthy. It wasn't giving overnight transformation. It was messy, slow, frustrating, boring sometimes, but it worked. And the first thing I had to do was something I had avoided my entire life. I had to stop lying to myself about everything. And trust me, that part hurt more than losing the job, because the lies weren't obvious. They sounded reasonable. They sounded normal. They sounded like things people say every day. "I'm trying my best. I don't have enough time. I'll start when things calm down. I work better under pressure. I'm waiting for the right moment." Girl, there is no right moment. Period. There is only now, and now was all I had left. The next morning, I grabbed a notebook, nothing fancy, just a cheap notebook, and I wrote down every area of my life: health, money, relationships, mindset, career, everything. Then I rated them honestly, not emotionally, honestly, and let me tell you, that notebook looked like a crime scene. Every category was struggling. Every category needed work, but for some reason, instead of feeling hopeless, I felt relieved. Because for the first time, I wasn't pretending anymore. The truth was finally on paper, and truth gives you something powerful, a starting point. Now what happened during the next year completely transformed me. Not because life suddenly became easy, because it didn't. It stayed hard, but this time, I was finally changing with it. And the habit that started it all sounds so simple you'll probably laugh. I woke up and kept promises to myself. That's it. Seriously. Tiny promises, tiny wins, tiny actions. But those tiny things started rebuilding a person I thought was gone forever. And trust me, the first promise I kept changed far more than my bank account. It changed the way I saw myself. And that's where the real glow up actually began.